Hey, this is Ben coming at you with a preview of the new Chandra that was just spoiled literally 6 minutes ago on the official Magic website. So I'd like to talk a little bit about how it's going to be in the cube. First off, my initial reaction was I was scrolling down and clicking the spoil button, and I was literally saying, don't cost 4, don't cost 4, because the red 4-drop section is already so crowded. And I was really hoping it would cost 3, because that's really what red could use as another really good 3-drop in the red section. Unfortunately, Chandra costs 4, so looking at her 3 abilities, it's so hard to get past that initial disappointment for me. So I'm still kind of in this initial shock. I haven't had time to really think through the long-term effects for this card for Cube. So the plus starts with 4 loyalty. So her first turn, even if you don't plus her, she's going to be at 4 loyalty, which is a pretty good starting amount for a Planeswalker. So her first ability hits the opponent for 1, and then if they have a creature you can actually target, then that creature can't block, and if it only has 1 toughness, then it'll die. So I'm just trying to think about how red, in my cube, I'm running a 540 powered, my red is just super aggro focused, super burn, super fast. So I'm thinking about all the other red 4-drops, even the lesser ones, like some of the weaker ones at this point, are like the Avalanche Riders and Keldon Champion, not even to talk about the better ones like Hell Rider, Hero of Oxid Ridge, or Koth. And to me, in that red super aggro deck, this card just seems worse. Like, it's just worse. That's the bottom line. If I'm curving out with my red aggro deck, I don't want to go 1 2-drop, 3-drop, and then Chandra Pyromaster. So immediately I need to refocus how I'm thinking about the quality of this card, because it's not going to go in the super red aggro decks. It's not. If I'm casting this card on turn 4 in those decks, I'm probably not doing very well, because the fact that it only does 1 damage is not very relevant. So I need to immediately shift my focus, because I was really hoping for a nice, aggressive Chandra Planeswalker, but we still have not gotten that in the cube. So looking at her second ability, exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. So if we move out of, again, my initial disappointment, and move out of the thought of it has to go into a red aggro focus deck, and think about it in like a mid-range deck, or like some sort of red slower deck, like Izzet or Gruul. Especially like the Izzet deck, I think this actually Chandra goes really well in the Izzet deck. Just being able to essentially draw a card, I mean, assuming you can cast it, of course. I guess it doesn't go with like the Izzet counterspell deck, but like the Izzet tempo deck, I feel like it'd be really good. You gotta be really careful though if you have a bunch of expensive cards and you could exile the best one, but I guess, that's the same mindset as milling, like, oh, I can mill their best card. It's the same wrong mindset. But essentially being able to draw a card, assuming you can play it, especially if it's like a land. I mean, like, how many times do you flip a land off of Bob and it's just a free draw? You can do the same thing with this Chandra. I mean, there's a 40 to 50% chance that your flip is just going to be a land, and you just can play it for free right off the top of your library. So that seems pretty sweet. So looking at the ultimate, exile the top 10 cards of your library, choose an instant or sorcery card exiled, and copy it 3 times. So you may cast the copies without paying their mana costs. Just trying to think about how this is for Cube. I'm thinking like to a deck with like a Time Walker Ancestral, that would obviously be the most busted thing to be able to do that. But the odds of doing that I think are pretty low, even if you have it in your deck. I mean, the odds are only 1 in 4 essentially, right, if you have 40 cards in your deck. I guess, but if you reveal like a lightning bolt, you can do 9 damage to somebody, which is pretty sweet. Honestly, I haven't even thought about all the different instants and sorceries that are in the cube. That'd be sweet. Maybe like, if you're in the Izzet deck, maybe like Bribery. Like, that would be really sweet. Being able to take your opponent's 3 best creatures. Yeah. Time Spiral? No. That doesn't do anything. So anyway, I don't think the ultimate, I think it's fine, but it's not nearly as good as like Koth, who's already in the cube, not as good as Koth's ultimate, or the 5-drop Chandra's ultimate, not as good as those. So maybe just thinking about Chandra as being in a red mid-range deck, or even like some sort of red control deck with the other Chandra, an Inferno Titan, and cards like that, and then it might be okay. But again, getting past my initial reaction of disappointment that it's not going to go in the red aggro deck. On top of that, trying to find space for it in the cube is going to be tough. I don't know. I haven't thought about what I'm going to cut in the red section yet, but adding just another red 4-drop is just so painful. But I have to think of it as, but thinking about all the other red 4-drops, like they all go in, they're all happy to go in the red aggro deck. This is more of a red control or mid-range deck card, so even if it gluts up the 4-drop section a little more, I think it's okay. Just because if I'm on the red mono red plan or the Boros plan, I'm not gonna want to take this card like at all. I mean, maybe if the draft doesn't go very well, again, I could be wrong. My 10-minute old reaction, I could be wrong about how it's going to play out. But overall, I think it's going to merit a spot in the cube. I would say probably not 360. I don't think it's good enough. But I think for the 450, maybe 540, I think the 450 range, it'll be good enough. Well, depending, 450 or 540, depending on how much you support the mid-range or the big red, if you will. So overall, I'm disappointed with this Chandra. I was really hoping it would cost 3. Even if it wasn't a great 3-drop Planeswalker, it would still be what red would need. But I just can't get past this disappointment. So that's my preview for Chandra. So I'm definitely going to test it in my cube here this weekend. So I'm curious to see how it's going to play out. But I'm the red drafter, and I'm just very disappointed. So hopefully it does better than I expect, and maybe will somehow still fit in the red aggro deck, so I don't see that happening. So